ADHD is a superpower. You've probably heard a lot about ADHD, but you've never heard it explained like this. If you're someone with ADHD, you've probably heard a lot of the negatives about it. Later in this video, I'm going to show you a graph that breaks down exactly what ADHD is, how it affects our mind, and how it is a superpower. I'm not just here to say it's a superpower, I'm going to show you exactly how. Now, before we get onto that, I've made a fantastic little illustration here, I think. Just what I think. Now, on this side, you've got John. Now, you might be new to the channel. You may not have met John before, but John is an absolute donut. He blames the world for everything. He's struggling. He's in a bad way, John. John's having a bad day. Most days for John are quite bad, to be fair. However, John represents a place where I've been before, and I'm sure many of us can resonate with John. So John's not alone. On this side, we have Tim. As you can see over here, John's saying, I can't focus, and he's blaming the ADHD. He's saying, I can't focus. He's saying, I need help. John's saying all sorts of stuff over here. Tim is saying, I'm super. Tim is flying. Look, this is, I didn't make this. Tim's saying this. I didn't say this. That's all the clouds he's going past. This is the sun he's going towards. Icarus, don't get too close to the sun, but Tim is having a fantastic day and he's super. Both Tim and John have ADHD. However, Tim watched this full video and knows exactly how to harness the power of ADHD. And John clicked off after a minute. That's why he's still there. Now, what is ADHD? Broken down, it is an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. The attention, the deficit and the hyperactivity, no problem. However, it's the last word, disorder, which makes us believe it truly is a disorder, as if something's wrong with us. And once you're able to access the superpower part of this, your life will change. The fact you pay close attention to detail, your understanding of what's engaging and what's not. Because if something's not engaging, we're the first people to clock out of it. We're like, no, this ain't engaging, I'm not staying here. If you're like me and you can't sit at a desk for 8 hours just glued to a screen, or you can't sit by a textbook for 8 hours just glued to the textbook, this video is for you. ADHD has a lot of negative connotations, right? It's a lot of negativity around ADHD. Like, there's something wrong with you. Yeah, I mean, you're messed up. And it's also something that's been on the rise for the last however many years since the introduction of the digital devices, the screens and all that jazz. It's definitely increased the attention deficit problems, right? Now, this video is not for you if you just like struggle to focus a little bit. I'm talking about people with like severe, like all over the place, like can't just sit down and do one thing for a long period of time and have to sort of be engaged and active and change. And then you pick up your phone, then you start going in the kitchen, doing the dishes. Then halfway through doing the dishes, you go back into your room, start wiping the floor. Then you start tying some shoelaces and like anyone that's experienced ADHD will understand this level of hyperactivity in the mind. This is where we're gonna get a little bit sciencey, so I need you to stay with me. But I'm gonna break down the science of ADHD. This is a graph. This is our graph, right? So we have here almost like 0, and then we have 100. Right, on this graph, we have a human being's normal baseline of dopamine. Now, dopamine, you've probably heard of dopamine. It's the chemical in our brain. It's a hormone in our brain that allows us to feel pleasure. You get a text from your babes, someone you like, or you have a sugary treat. That's the wrong type of dopamine. Or you do something during some hard work that you're really enjoying. All of these things are dopamine. These senses that we get of like enjoyment, right? Pleasure, almost. Now, essentially, this is a normal person's baseline. We have a baseline for dopamine. What does that mean? It means something can occur that can keep us at a point where we don't need to move, we don't need to change, we don't need a change of scenery, we don't need a change of environment or activity or anything. We're fine. We can just sit there and crack on with a baseline level of dopamine. Now, this is where most people have, this is what most people have. They have a baseline level of dopamine here. What ADHD is, let's just label this, right? So this label, I'll put normal. Essentially, this person doesn't need loads of stimulation to be at normal dopamine. They don't need loads of stimulation to be able to just sit still and crack on with what they're doing. Hence, this ADHD thing's been on the rise. The increase of the threshold in the mind for stimulation. Now, that's a whole nother sort of area to go into, right? But essentially, this is a normal person's baseline level of dopamine. Now, I use green. I like green. This is someone with ADHD. What this means is that the stimulus, boom. For example, in school, Being able to sit there at a desk for the whole session and just focus on what's happening. Just focus on what the textbook is saying. That stimulus from the textbook was more than enough to fire off the dopamine sensors in that normal person without ADHD. Hence, they could sit there for the whole time and not fidget, not move, not get up, not go to the toilet, they could just sit there and focus. Now, essentially, that same level of stimulus, as you can see, does not trigger the dopamine of the person that has ADHD. Stay with me. Now, normal, that's the normal baseline, all right? As I said, this line is the person that has ADHD, both triggering the dopamine that is required to stimulate us. Simply put, the person with a normal threshold for dopamine is here, and the person with ADHD is here. Now that just means we need more stimulus in order to be satisfied. The person with ADHD needs that, boom, needs that level of stimulus to be satisfied. You're probably looking at this and thinking, how is this a superpower? This sounds like a problem, a disorder. If we just look at this graph, yes. However, that's gorgeous. However, this graph is also the same when it comes to engagement, creativity, and when it comes to actually being in the middle of a task and focused. The person with ADHD has much more stimulus and much more dopamine out of the activity than a normal person does, because it stimulates more. Although people with ADHD have a higher baseline for that dopamine to be triggered, the superpower part is that once it is triggered in that person with ADHD, it doesn't just go like this. Now, this is the best part about ADHD. Once that dopamine is triggered in the person with ADHD, it doesn't just go like this. It doesn't just touch it and come back. Once it is triggered, it goes like this. This is getting quite sciencey, so I really need you to stay with me, and because this is even confusing me a bit. Essentially, what happens is it goes past the baseline, which means the person with ADHD, once they're truly locked into something that they do enjoy, the response and the amount of dopamine that person is going to be feeling is even more than the person without. Now, what does that leak into? For example, the person with ADHD that is doing an activity or doing a task that it truly is captivating them, and you may have found this if you are somebody that has ADHD or has symptoms of it at least, you have found this, that maybe when you're doing something you enjoy, you really enjoy it. When you're doing something that you love, you really love it. It's like you can see it in people. You can really see it in people. I used to see this a lot at football training. I would see that most people would, they'd be able to do the normal drills and all that stuff. I would really struggle with that boring stuff, right? But when we got into match practice and we got into being in a space where we're able to be creative, for me, I realized that I was crazy engaged. I'd cover every blade of grass. I'd run everywhere. I'd pick up the ball everywhere. I'd be popping. Yep. I'd be calling for it. I'd be so expressive. And I was so locked into what we was doing, and I had a deeper buy-in. Now, with this deeper buy-in, the manifestation of these things can be things like leadership. Because you have a deeper buy-in, you have more care, which means you can also communicate that care to other people, which means you can lead from the front. People are looking for leaders. So now we're tapping into the superpower element of ADHD. It means you have an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. You have an attention deficit, which means you start at a deficit essentially. It takes more dopamine, it takes more stimulus to trigger you. However, once it hits a certain stimulus, unlike the normal person, the person with ADHD, it goes way above that stimulus and they're engaged and locked in, and they take it super serious. And the part of this, essentially the superpower part of this, how it goes above, you're seeing here, it says 100, right? This is the highest level of stimulus for dopamine. And what I mean by that is the highest level of enjoyment, the highest level of buy-in, the highest level of engagement. Once it gets to this level, this normal person who doesn't have that ADHD, they've got more room to go in a sense of stimulus. Now, who do you think it is? That's going to bring them up to this level of stimulus, up to this level of buy-in? If you like football, I like football. You probably know that already. But think about captains. I can promise you most captains have this. Their dopamine is not the same as everybody else in that room. which essentially means they tap into a level of leadership. That leadership is simply because that person taps into a level of care and understanding that the normal person is unable to tap into because their stimulus has already been hit. I hope this is all making sense. This is quite complex stuff. However, this genuinely changed my whole perception of it. As I said, I used to get kicked out of class all the time. I wasn't able to just like sit still. And even in my recent years, when it came to like working, I would really struggle like just focusing and locking in on a project. However, simply I realized that there's just different styles of delivery. For example, if you are somebody that is delivering projects often, if you are delivering workshops and speaking engagements and seminars and all of these things and whatnot, and you're struggling to do it the traditional way, stop doing it the traditional way. If you are somebody that has ADHD or symptoms of it at least, right, you have to understand that you have an ability to understand what's engaging and what's not. You know that you can't just turn up and speak like boring. You know that you have to be. If you are someone with ADHD, that means you're someone that is difficult to engage. Now, reverse that. This is simply about reframing. The superpowers come when we reframe these things. If you have an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, that means you know you are someone that is hard to engage. That means you know how to engage someone that is hard to engage. If you know how to engage someone that is hard to engage, you will be very engaging, because once you learn the skills to be able to tap in and as I said, if you can deliver things that are this level of stimulus all the way close to 100, your workshop, your seminar, your speech, your activities, your games nights with friends, all of these things, leadership, everything. If you are able to tap into this level of dopamine, then of course you're going to be able to serve this person, but you're also going to be able to serve this person. You're going to be able to serve absolutely everyone within reason. You can't serve everyone, but like within reason, you're going to be able to tap into both people. The people that are hard to reach with ADHD like you, but also the normal people that don't have it. Because if it's engaging for someone with ADHD, then of course it's going to be engaging for someone without. Now, this is the whole reframe that changed my life, changed the way I see this. I used to think I had like this problem in my mind until I realized this is a superpower. And I hope that after watching this, you can realize it's a superpower. Going back to the start of the video, we had Tim and we had John. Tim watched this video a couple of times and now he's flying. John didn't watch it. John's still stuck, but we love John and we're gonna support John. This is why ADHD is a superpower, and this is how we tap into it. If you do have ADHD, you are probably a leader. You're probably a leader of change. You're probably going to be the difference. The one that creates systems, projects, and opportunities for the people that struggle. It's probably gonna come from you because you understand that person like no one else. Understand, if you have been given this thing of ADHD, it is a superpower, and do not let anybody tell you any different. Tap into it and it will change your life. Until the next one, I'll see you in a bit.